Hey guys, in this video I wanna share how to master Instablock. For that, I wanna talk about different topics, so be sure to check timestamps in case there is something that piques your interest. And here the first thing about Instablock is that there is no real reason to not use it. What it is worth mentioning is that there are some moves that become quite awkward to use, like power guards, as you need to finish the Instablock animation to enter the normal guard stance. You cannot use it as fast as when you use guard alone. Nonetheless, seems like almost no one uses that move, at least for the comments I've seen in some previous guides, so there's no harm in changing it. And some other moves that become a bit harder to use are guard dash and shield tackle, because you need to input all the buttons at the same time. The same thing happens with dash attack. In this clip, for example, take a look at the inputs. With the traditional guard, you can keep press the guard button and then just a direction plus X. But if you are using Instablock and you want to start guard dash right away, you have to press guard, a direction and X all together. I believe it is worth mentioning because the first time I started using Instablock it became a bit hard to execute those moves until I found out that you can execute them without that much issue. Some questions may arise like, but what if I wanna just normally guard, but because I use Instablock I get hit more often than while using guard alone? And yep, that is a valid point, but that is the reason to practice shield tackle or guard dash. It naturally adds 2 guard points, and we can instantly enter in a guard stance without using Instablock. So pretty much there's no reason to not use it. What is important to keep in mind is that we have some frames, if I recall well it was around 6-8 frames if you're playing in the Switch. Another thing to keep in mind is once we commit to the move, because well, it is true that it is able to deal a heckload of damage, it takes around 80 frames, more than 1 second, and that is going to be like 80% of our fight while learning how to use it, because every monster has its own tempo while executing attacks. Nonetheless, if you wanna switch to much more offensive builds, it is worth learning it, and it doesn't consume stamina, and there's no cheap damage while using it. A point to notice here is that just because you activated Instablock, it doesn't mean that you have to execute it. While it definitely is slower than normal guard, it is possible to jump right away, or do some other moves. Also, in case you decide to go for the attack, you can pretty much execute it in whatever direction you choose. The best switch skill to synergize it with is Anchorage, because you can finish the attack with Instablock and right away use Anchorage as a secondary move where you won't use stamina and there's not going to be cheap damage. This is something I recommend for those who are learning how to use this switch skill. Once you grasp the basic of it, you can pretty much go through attacks, insta-blocking and jumping, like in this clip. And it is thanks to these moves that it is possible to do something as dumb as the no armor runs. Some technical aspects about the Instablock, but that also apply to guard, is the angle in which you receive the hit. It is possible to cover around 180 degrees while using it. However, in some circumstances things can go out of hand. But here the only thing that we can do is rely on evasive builds, or quite later in the game once we have access to Embolden 3, because that way we can jump through attacks with ease. If there is a way I recommend learning it, is while fighting a monster like Lunaragon, Rayang, as they have some fast-paced moves. That way you will get rather quickly the limitations about it, and when to commit to the move or when to cancel it and do something else. It is hard to tell how it exactly works because there are some multi-hits that once you have insta-blocked them, they are not going to deal damage. However, if you try to jump through them, the second move is able to hit you. However, there are also some other moves that even when they are multi-hits and we could argue whether they are similar or not, Instablock will not be able to defend you from these kind of things. So yeah, it is a bit gimmicky, but that it's more about the experimentation. And that's it. Those are pretty much the things you need to keep in mind when learning how to use it. I hope you found this guide useful, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.